In this video, I'm just going to tackle a single problem here from exercise 373, just 25. If you're able to make it through problem 25 on your own, you're in really good shape. 25 is a fairly tricky problem. If you've tried 25 and just couldn't make it by yourself, no need to panic just yet. Still plenty of time to practice and put it all together. But 25 is going to become the norm rather than the exception in terms of the difficulty level that's expected. So let's tackle it together, thinking our way through the problem together. We're asked to derive here just simply E. And E, you'll notice, appears a couple of different times, so that's not incredibly helpful here. E is a part of 1 as well as 2, so it's probably not at all obvious as to how we're going to go about getting that E. So let's resort to our alternative strategy here. Let's think about the moves that we could possibly make to get this problem going. And once we take one initial step, it's quite likely that that in turn will lead to another step and to another step, and we'll begin to unravel the problem. So given our 13 rules now, 8 rules of inference, 5 rules of replacement, given our 13 rules, what can we possibly do given the information at our disposal? Now, of course, we can always do addition. You can always add on whatever you like. But there's not an immediately obvious reason as to why we would do that. Likewise, we can always do conjunction. We could, if we wanted, jam lines 1 and 2 together. But it doesn't seem to be a step that would at all prove to be useful. So you could do it, nothing wrong with doing it. No points will be deducted if you take these extra steps. But there's no real reason for doing either conjunction or addition. So let's continue to think our way through it. What else could we possibly do? And there's one thing that seems to stand out, and hopefully you're getting to the point where these possible moves, these patterns do in fact jump right out off the page at you. One thing we could do to begin the problem is to do De Morgan's just to line number 1. Now, not De Morgan's to the entire statement, but in fact De Morgan's just to the second disjunct of line number 1. We'll leave the E wedge the same, and just do De Morgan's there to the right-hand side. So De Morgan's on 1 would look like this. Seems to be a fairly obvious move to make. Not one that's blatantly obvious, but one that does stand out. That's the textbook case, after all, just examining the right-hand side of line number 1. That's the textbook case of De Morgan's. So let's see what that would get us. 1 DM, remember these rules of replacement, you can do it to one side or the other. A little different than our rules of inference. We would get E, or that stays the same. Distribute the tilde, not D, not C. Starts as a wedge, flip it to a dot. And of course we've got to put in our parentheses here, otherwise that statement's going to be ambiguous. We need to clearly define that wedge here as still being the main logical operator. So what was the point of doing De Morgan's on line number 1? What did that get us? What pattern, what rule seems to match up with the pattern demonstrated in line number 3? So let's review our rules and see if anything fits with what we're given now in line number 3. And this seems to be now a textbook case of distribution. Don't let the tildes throw you. It's the same basic case here. We've got a variable on the outside of the parentheses. We've got the right combination of dots and wedges. So we can now do distribution on 3 by distributing the E. So let's see what that would look like. What does that get us? 3 distribution. Distribute the E first to the not D, and then E to the not C. Operator starts as a wedge. Switch that to a dot, use the wedge as the leftover operator, put in your parentheses, clearly identifying the main operator as the dot, and that's the result of 3 distribution. Now the question becomes, what was the point of doing that? What can we now in turn do with line number 4? Well, this is easy enough to deal with. The main operator in 4 is the dot. So anytime that's the case, we can just simply simplify. So 4 sim. And we get the first conjunct by itself, E wedge not D. And now finally, we've opened up a door for ourselves. What can we do with E wedge not D? Well, E wedge not D is the antecedent, you'll notice, to line 2. So we can immediately now do 2 and 5 mode exponents. And that'll get us the consequent of line 2. That'll get us the C. Now, what good did the C do? We want E, after all. We don't want the C. Well, here the second part of line number 4 will come in handy. If you recall here, to get line number 5, we simplified 4, getting out the first conjunct. What we now want is the second conjunct. So for line number 7, I'm going to combine 2 steps into a single line. And feel free to do this if you like. Save a little bit of time, save you the trouble of recopying line number 4 in reverse order. When we simplify, you'll remember you only get the first conjunct, and what we now want in line number 4 is the second conjunct. So the first step that I'll do here is 4 com, and that would get us the reverse order here. We want the E wedge not C to come first. So without writing it, I'm just going to include this here in my tagline, include it in my justification, reverse the order of the conjuncts, and then we're simplifying. The second move that I'm going to tag on here, in one foul swoop, one single step. Technically this should be 2 steps, but just to save a little time here to speed things up, quite common and simp to get out the second conjunct, I'll get E wedge not C. Now what can I do with 7? I want the E. E here is the first disjunct. Main operator is the wedge. So it sounds like disjunctive syllogism, but when you do DS, you'll get out the second disjunct, and what we want is the first disjunct. So that's easy enough to remedy, quite common move. We want the first disjunct, but DS allows us to get out the second disjunct. So 7 com, reverse the order, not C or E instead of E or not C. And now we're just about ready to do that DS to get the second disjunct by itself, the E, which is what we want. Never lose sight of it in goal. To do DS, we need the negation of the first disjunct. First disjunct is not C. The negation of that would be not C, which we don't have, but we can get easy enough out of line 6. So 6 double negation, that'll get us our not C. And to finish this off, 8 and 9 DS, 8 and 9 DS, if you can read my chicken scratches, 8 and 9 DS, and that'll get us our E. So 25, don't feel bad if you couldn't get it on your own. Pretty tricky problem. If you're not quite to this level just yet, put in the practice, put in the necessary work. If you're not putting in the necessary work, it's just simply not going to come to you. But trust me, the more you practice, the more you familiarize yourself with the rules, and I highly recommend committing them to memory, the more that these patterns will begin to jump out off the page at you. So put in the work, and it will all come together.